both of our candidates seeking the Republican nomination. As you know at this point, there is no Democratic opposition, so this will basically determine who our next superintendent of Shelby County Schools is going to be. So an important decision coming up on Tuesday, May 19th. We're excited that all of you could be here. We're very grateful for both of our candidates being here tonight. And I know it's a busy time of year with spring sports and other activities going on, so I'm glad that we got a good crowd in attendance tonight. I appreciate y'all being here and taking this seriously. We will be recording this, so it will play back hopefully next week at some point to give everybody out there a chance to watch as well. But just appreciate y'all being here tonight. It's my honor to serve as the moderator for the forum this evening. And we're pleased to be co-hosting, as you can see on the screen behind me, tonight's forum with the Shelby County Chamber. Kirk Manser's here with the Chamber. We've got a few others in attendance as well. So excited to be co-hosting with them and also the Young Republicans of Shelby County as well. And Raylan with the Young Republicans of Shelby County is going to be serving as our timekeeper tonight as well. So very excited to have their partnership, and obviously Jeff State too, in hosting this event for us this evening. I see the nod of the head there from David, so I'm very grateful for their partnership as well in making this happen. On behalf of our co-hosts, we do hope that you find this program both interesting and informative, and we are pleased that you could be here with us tonight. Now I'm going to explain the format of tonight's forum. Each candidate is going to be asked the same questions and given 3 minutes to respond to each question. The sequence for answering questions will rotate alphabetically so that each candidate answers a question first an equal number of times. That rotation will continue throughout the question and answer portion of tonight's forum. Neither candidate has been provided with the questions prior to tonight's event. And in the interest of time, there will be no opening statements. There will, however, be an opportunity for closing statements from each candidate at the end of the night that will last no longer than 5 minutes. And we just had a drawing to determine who would go first and second in that segment as well. As I mentioned, Rayla will be serving as our timekeeper, so she's right down here in front for y'all. Very easy to see. She will give a 1 minute, a 30-second warning, and then a stop time when your 3 minutes has expired. All right. I think that gets rid of the pre-words. Now we can just jump right in. And with our first question, we're going to start with Mr. Joel Dixon. Mr. Dixon, the first question tonight is going to be, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge currently facing Shelby County Schools, and how do you plan to help solve that issue?
Well, before I start talking for that answer, I do want to take a second. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the Young Republicans, the Chamber, and the Shelby County Reporter, but I especially appreciate that one of my kids from Vincent is here tonight, who will be graduating from Jeff State in a couple of weeks, so that's awesome. With that, I think the thing that is probably the single biggest challenge coming in the next few years is the amount of change. We're standing on the edge of education looking fundamentally different, both here in Shelby County with the change of leadership. We're also at that age where the baby boom generation is just about retired. Generation X is approaching that way, and younger employees are coming into that. Our system enjoys such a rich culture and such a strong culture of excellence and continued growth that I think it's going to be critical that that be the focus point moving forward. To me, that takes seasoned leadership at every level. It takes somebody that understands 31 schools and 20,000 students and nearly 3,000 employees. And that approach to leadership that is collaborative, that recognizes that each of our systems, each of our communities are different, but they share more commonalities, and every kid in Shelby County Schools deserves to be launched and have an opportunity to find their definition of success. How will I lead that? I will lead that incrementally. Let's not lose sight of the fact that we have amazing teachers in this school system who believe in the mission to come to work every day and pour their heart hearts into the work they do for kids, for families. Can we get better? Always. And that's always been the culture of this district, and that will be the mindset that I approach is, let's not break old things, but let's seek the ways to be more efficient, to be better stewards of taxpayer dollars, and to honor the trust that families put in us. Hey, I finished early. That has never happened in my life.
Awesome. We will now invite Andrew Gunn to the podium. And we'll ask the same question. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge currently facing Shelby County Schools, and how do you plan to help solve that issue?
Of course. First of all, I would also like to thank everybody for being here tonight, taking time out of your busy week to stop by and come and listen to Mr. Dixon and myself talk about our vision for the future of our school system. And I would also like to thank a very special guest, my high school principal, Mr. Don Knight, made his way out to see me. Appreciate it. A very influential man in my life, without a doubt. The biggest challenge I see facing Shelby County Schools as we move forward is we are entering an age and we're entering a future of where we do not know what is authentic and we will not know what's authentic and real as we navigate the future of our school system. We have to emphasize that we want face-to-face learning in our school system. We have to emphasize that we want not to lose sight of human connection in our classrooms. We need to make sure that as the world is changing around us, we know what we value and we know what we works as a school system. That is powerful teachers impacting children every single day. That is children engaging with one another every single day in the classroom. I've lived it for the last 22 years in the school building, 12 years as a principal, 9 years as a teacher. I've seen the changes as they've come along throughout our school system. I've seen through what is coming towards us and what is coming our way. We cannot lose sight of what is important. And what is important is that our kids go to school every single day and they're taught by a teacher. They're engaged with their classmates. They're engaged with the learning environment in which we put them in. We have to value that. That is the most important thing we can do for our kids. I have 3 children that have not even started school yet. And I know what I want for my kids. And as I've gotten to talk to so many amazing people across this school district and so many amazing people across this county, I have found that they want that for their kids too. They want authentic human engagement in the classroom. And that will be the focus and the vision of our instructional process if I'm fortunate enough to become superintendent. So, I think I finished early too.
2 for 2. You can actually stay up there. You can great answer. Any question number 2? Yeah, that does not happen very often. But we'll see if that continues as they warm up a little bit here. All right, question number 2. Share a specific example of one of the biggest challenges you faced in your career. What practices did you use to work your way through that obstacle? I'll give you a second to think about that one too. A little bit of a curveball there.
Oh, no, that's completely fine. I think a lot about my career as 12 years as a principal, working hand in hand with parents, working right there on the front lines with students and parents every single day of my 22-year career. And I can assure you this, I am not perfect. I have made more than my share of mistakes. And I will own those mistakes. Because that's the only way you're going to learn and grow from mistakes, or you're going to learn and grow from challenges, if you acknowledge your role in that challenge or in that issue, whatever it may be. I'll be completely transparent. When I was a principal of Helena Middle School, there was issues that I approached that I felt like I was approaching things 100% by the book. And I felt like I was doing things unequivocally according to the way that said it's laid out in the policy manual and the way it's laid out in the code of conduct. And as I've aged and as I reflected on that and going through that experience, one of the things that I learned was I didn't listen enough. I didn't understand what the parents were experiencing. I didn't truly hear what the parents were experiencing. And I didn't empathize the way I probably should have. And I acknowledge that, and I will own that. Now, I did everything by the book, and I followed the rules and I followed the laws. But after reflection and after going through that process, I know I could have done something different. And I've grown from that, and I've learned from that. And it's helped me be more empathetic as a leader as I move forward.
All right, now we'll invite Mr. Dixon back for the same question. And that question again is to share a specific example of one of the biggest challenges you faced in your career. What practices did you use to work your way through that obstacle?
That might be the hardest. If you have anything harder than that the rest of the night, go ahead and go. That's a really difficult question to answer after 28 years. I was 10 years as a classroom teacher. I've sat behind kids and been with kids when they found out that their parents were in a traffic accident and passed away. I've attended kids' funerals who were doing nothing wrong with being kids and got in a car accident and passed away. I've attended funerals for staff and I've walked through things like that. I sat in my office as a principal and had to have a really hard conversation with a parent about a kid that might not graduate or might be going to alternative school and they don't know how to navigate that path. But I think if I had to pick one thing, it's the challenge of leadership. And for me, COVID, for all of us, COVID was just, it was something else. Because there was so much unknown, and like so much of the world we live in today, there was such a polarized response to it. You had people who acted like it was a myth, acted like it was nothing but a common cold. And for a lot of us, when we got it, that's what it was, right? Then others got it. A dear friend of ours, a preacher at our church at the time, he spent 38 days in the hospital, and they didn't think he was going to live through it. Navigating that kind of emotional water, and then you're trying to walk out managing a school virtually, and then you come back in person, and who do you send home, and who do you not send home, and managing close context, the personnel implications that come along with that, when people are, days are covered and then they're not covered. How do you navigate that? You navigate that as a team. I've said 1,000 times, one person can't lead a system this big. You've got to have smart people around you. You've got to have trusted voices who have skin in the game that will sit down at a table and listen and try to figure out the best option in a really hard situation when there's not an ideal option. And I say it all the time, and I will say it till I take my last breath. The soul of this school system is right. And that's not to say that we always make the popular decision, because I know we don't. And that's not to say that we always make the easy decision, because we never do unless it's also the right decision or the best decision. And I guess people can look in hindsight and say hindsight's 20/20, but we always try to make the best decision that first serves our kids and then serves our employees. And that's the order we go in every time. So I think that was a challenge from a system standpoint that was probably the most difficult in my career, and probably all of our careers. And I finished early.
You actually just come right back up. You can take us.
Fair enough. No.
All right, that was a tough one. Let's see if I can find an easy one.
My favorite football team?
If you were elected superintendent, how do you plan to handle student mental health and bullying? So I lied. That's
Thanks. I appreciate that. I have 3 minutes for that, for the record. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Student mental health. Let me say first that there are a ton of resources in our system already. Whether it's counselors at our school that are available, whether it's teachers who have opportunities to go through mental health first aid, so that they're more aware. Systemically, we've done PD on brain research and how all of us respond to every situation first emotionally, and then we process through that and can respond logically and rationally. So we've equipped our leaders and our teachers with tools like that. We have school-based mental health counselors that are available with parent permission and parent communication, where if a parent's not able to get their kid to a therapist can come into our school and work with that student to provide those resources. And it eliminates a barrier. And in some of our communities, that barrier is a brick wall. So we have those kind of resources. I think beyond that, there's two things to me that I think they don't solve those problems, but they speak to those problems, and I think they change the direction a little bit. First, I think a good active classroom. Kids who are engaged in classrooms where they're talking about things they care about, where the teacher and the student are sharing ideas, which I think happens at a time. We've been doing voice meetings as a district leadership team the last week and a half or two, and that has been a refrain from so many of our parents. They're so thankful for our teachers and the relationships and the commitment and the engagement they bring to our kids. But having a good noisy classroom, a good productive noisy classroom, a classroom where kids are able to move. I think in the HR role I'm in now, there's no way I'm going to do this in 3 minutes. In the HR role I'm in now, I talk to young teachers about movement. When I was building principal, I can't tell you how many times when I had a kid that was dysregulated, we went to go make sure that the back parking lot hadn't disappeared, because I knew that a 10-minute walk, that little bit of motion, that little bit of movement would help process some of that stress out, and that kid would then be better able to have a conversation. And we did that a million times. I think you have to encourage those things for students. You have to encourage those things for teachers. Bullying in under a minute. Yeah. I would say it comes down simply to communication and ongoing communication. Communication between the parents and the students and the school, so that we know what's going on, and then not an assumption that reporting at one time is the end of it, because kids sometimes will stop and then begin again. And so that ongoing communication has to be there. I will say, I know that our administrators in our school take those concerns seriously. They work really diligently to ferret those behaviors out and get kids into a good place, because that kind of behavior is not good for the kid being bullied, nor is it good for the kid who's doing the bullying.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Now we go back with the same question to Mr. Gunn, and we'll repeat that question, which is, if you were elected superintendent, how do you plan to handle student mental health and bullying?
I am very proud of the many, many resources that our school system has invested in student mental health. We have amazing counselors that do amazing work every single day, and I see it with my own eyes when I walk into the building. It is remarkable the amount of trust that has been established with our students and our counselors, in the way that they feel they're comfortable, that they can go to them and they can speak about their problems and the issues that they're having. The training that we've done as administrators, the professional learning, we've learned to recognize the signs and the symptoms of mental health, and not only the signs and symptoms, but how to react in a compassionate way, and think about what is a student going through, the challenges they're facing in their life. Have been remarkable, and have helped my own personal growth as well, and my understanding of mental health and how it affects our community and how it affects our students. I feel the biggest thing, and this would start with leadership at the top, is that we have to value the child. We have to approach our school system where we value the child first and the student second. We have to make sure that from the top down, from the superintendent to our custodians, to our bus drivers, our teachers, our counselors, our mission and our vision is wrapped around the idea that we're going to take care of that kid first when they're walking in the door. Because if we take care of that kid first, if we know that kid's needs and we know that kid's circumstances, and we're going to make sure that we're caring for that child first, I promise you, and I've seen it in my own buildings that I've been fortunate enough to be principal of, and I've seen it in my own classrooms. The student side of it will take care of itself. If we're taking care of the kid and they're in a classroom with a loving teacher who they know cares about them and they know is working for them and advocating for them, they're going to be successful. Now, the topic of bullying, that is a very sensitive subject, and that's something that I've been asked about a lot as I've been out on the campaign trail. And at the end of the day, no matter what has happened and what the circumstances are, we have to understand and acknowledge that a child has been hurt. And I know there's a lot of different ways it can be interpreted, and I know there's a lot of things that could have happened that could have led to this, but we have to acknowledge first that there's a child that has been hurt. There are parents that are hurting. They have entrusted us with their child, and now something is going on with that child. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to investigate it. We have to fully understand the parent's perspective and where they're coming from, why they're bringing this to us, and then we need to take action appropriately to support that child as they move forward.
Thank you. They both had the stop card go up that time, so I told you it was not normal. All right, so we move on with Mr. Gunn for our fourth question of the night. And that question is going to be, how do you prioritize resources fairly across the district to make sure students and staff are getting the best educational experience?
There's undoubtedly a finite amount of resources and an unlimited amount of needs when it comes to running a school system. And this is a large school system of over 20,000 students, 31 schools. There's a lot of needs to go around and a very, very finite amount of resources. The most important thing we can do is understanding each and every one of our communities as they are very unique to one another, and the unique needs of each community when we sit down to allocate where we're going to put resources and where they're going to go. Daily, for the last 12 years, I've been responsible for the budget of 3 different schools, thousands of teachers, thousands of students through that time, or hundreds of teachers and thousands of students through that time. It is a daily process of where are we going to use the small amount of resources we have to make the biggest impact on our students when we do use those resources or when we choose to put those in different places. There are communities that have higher special education populations. They're going to need more resources to serve that. There's communities with higher ESL populations will need different types of resources to go in that direction. But ultimately, we have to determine, are the resources, whether they be financial or human or otherwise, are we allocating them in a way that best serves first and foremost our children and also our communities? How can we best use our resources to make sure that it is impacting the most amount of students we possibly can?
Thank you. All right, the same question for Mr. Dixon. How do you prioritize resources fairly across the district to make sure students and staff are getting the best educational experience?
I want to approach that from 2 different angles. First, you're a good steward of taxpayer dollars. And I want to say thank you to our taxpayers. We enjoy 30 mills of property tax in the Shelby County Schools, and that makes a huge difference. We're a very affluent system with a tremendous amount of diversity. So we have pockets of great wealth and we have pockets of great need, but we are a strong school system. And I would argue whether you graduate from the biggest, most affluent school in Shelby County Schools or the smallest, most impoverished school, you walk away equipped for a great future. And I've seen that for the last 8 years working at the district level, seeing the commitment of teachers. And I will add, when I was a principal at Clare High School, we were looking at a practice called instructional rounds. It's pretty common now. But Vestavia at the time was kind of leading the charge with that and was really good at it. So I took a group of teachers from Calera to Vestavia to see. And my big takeaway that day when we left and we went to get lunch and we debriefed is the strategies and the activities that I saw those teachers doing at Vestavia were the exact same ones that my teachers were doing in Calera High School. So be thankful that you work in a school system that is careful with taxpayer dollars. We have a CSFO and a finance team who's extraordinary, making sure that we're careful with our money, that we make smart investments so that we're not wasting money when we do capital projects, that we're able, in recent years, we've been able to build ahead of need a little bit with local funds, so there's no interest involved in that. There's no prolonged debt, and that makes us better stewards. The other part of it, from January to March for the last 8 years, I've been part of a team that is HR, finance, and instruction. And we go through every employee in our district and every school. And we look at retirements and resignations and transfers that need to happen and other staffing-related issues. And we work on a regular level through that process with principals to make sure that we're being good stewards of the resources at each school. As Mr. Gunn said, there's never enough to do all that you wish you could do. All that you wish you could do. But we work hard to make sure that we put our money into people. A new high school these days costs somewhere between $80 and $100 million to build. But in our schools with greater needs, whether that's special ed population or whether that's poverty related, we put additional investments of people with staffing at those schools so that those kids get the extra supports they need. That's not easy to see from the outside, but it's easy to see from the inside. So that would be the practice that I would continue. Be smart with the investments we make with your dollars and be surgical when it comes to making sure schools get what they need. Get that right?
We are on to question 5, so 5 questions. 4 questions.
4 questions.
4 questions. The 5th question, in your opinion, what is the most important key to determining academic success across the school system?
One thing, right? I think it is first and foremost a community that kids want to be involved in. And I think that comes through teachers who know their kids, and I think our teachers do know their kids. And I think it comes from classrooms that are active and engaged and have kids talking about things they care about. The analogy or the example I've always used, you can walk into any 8th grade physical science classroom and ask your students, should we go to all electric vehicles or stay with gas vehicles? You won't have to say a word for the rest of that class period, because kids will have varying levels of informed opinions, but they will all be very strong opinions. And then you can take that and use it as a springboard to give those kids the information they need to grow in that content area. But you've also built a place where kids feel like they have a voice. You've built a place where kids feel like their voice matters. You've built a place where kids want to be, and that helps all the things: attendance, paying attention to classroom engagement in the schoolwork, real learning, not just checking off the to-do list. That would be, I think, a huge advance toward academic growth. The other thing I think we have to realize is the world's different than it was. The school systems probably spent 20 years or so telling everybody they had to go to college, and I don't know that that was ever true, but it's certainly not true today. And the career technical world has just exploded with these amazing opportunities that maybe a kid chooses not to go to college. Well, they're still able to go out and make a great life for themselves. Or maybe they get a little bit down the road and they realize that that work they did in our automotive program or our aeronautics program is just applied physics and applied sciences. And so they're still that much equipped to go academically to go get a degree in engineering or get a degree in construction science or whatever it might be. So I think you've got to have paths for kids. And I think you've got to own the fact that I would like you to raise your hand if you were fully mature and you were only ready to succeed in the world when you were 18 years old as a high school senior. I was 17 when I graduated, and I was nowhere near ready. I think we've got to recognize that what we're doing is planting seeds that come to fruition down the road. And after 28 years, I don't go anywhere where I don't see my kids who are dentists or doctors or nurses or any number of other things. If they're doctors and nurses, it's always a little scary if you're having a procedure done. But those kinds of things equip kids for academic or for their future and make a school community that is focused on academic growth. I got time left. No, I don't have time. I can do anything else. Like, man.
Mr. Gunn, the same question for you. In your opinion, what is the most important key to determining academic success across the school system?
If we're going to determine the academic success of a school system of over 20,000 students, K through 12, and even pre-K through 12 now with our award-winning pre-K programs that we have, determining the academic success of our school system, I think we first have to look at what is it do we value? What is it do we want our school system to look like in the future? How do we want our children to be educated? And what do those outcomes look like? And first and foremost, I feel like, as I said earlier, we have to make sure that we are starting with the child first. That we are understanding the needs of every single child, the needs of every single community, and the needs of our families as they're dropping us off with that most sacred trust that they do every single day when they drop off the most important thing in their life at our front door. A successful school system, I truly believe, as the world is changing around us and as the resources around us are changing. There was a time where the school systems that had the most resources were able to go out and get the most things and have all the newest and the latest, greatest, this and that. That is becoming so ubiquitous in our world, and it's surrounding us every single day. The absolute best school systems of the future. And I believe with all of my heart that Shelby County will be one of those where people do whatever it takes to move their kid into a zone where they can attend the Shelby County school system. Will be the ones that value human connection in the classroom, that value the face-to-face learning every single day, that value the opportunities that creates for children to be successful and engage with another human being in a way that helps them grow and mature throughout their education. That is a fundamental belief, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I see it every single day in the school that I serve, and I know that that is what the most successful schools in the future will look like.
All right, so we've got 3 questions left, and let's go the technology route. Technology is a growing topic within schools. Do you plan to limit or increase technology? If so, how? Or do you plan to keep a similar approach to what we currently have? If so, why? I can repeat it if you need me to.
If so, how? If so, why? Technology is an amazing thing. It is an amazing tool. It is something that we all use every single day. It is everywhere, anywhere, and all around us at all points in our life. We're being recorded right now. There's people on their phones. You get notifications. It is everything and anything in our world. There are amazing uses for technology in school. There are amazing ways that we can use technology to prepare students for the future and make sure that students are prepared to enter a technological age and make good use of the skills that they have. What I don't want to see is in the classroom, us moving, and I'm very proud of Shelby County Schools because we're not there and we're not doing these things. But if you keep up with trends around the country, if you keep up with where education is going, the more and more the content can be generated automatically and inauthentically. the more and more it is going to find its ways into our school. There have been times where people are concerned about who is writing our textbook. Nobody's talking about who is writing the algorithm that is supposed to be teaching a student. That concerns me. It concerns me very much. It concerns me to have a kindergartner on a Chromebook at all. It concerns me to have my first grader on a Chromebook when he gets to first grade. I want him actively engaged with his peers. I want him actively engaged with his teacher. I want my children doing what children do in school. And technology is a very valuable tool. It is something we all use every single day. There are great practical applications to it in the classroom, but we have to make sure that the focus of our instruction is first and foremost that human being in the classroom, and that engagement with the student, and that engagement from student to student and teacher to student, and all the things that come along with that. The conflicts that naturally arise when you have little kids, the issues that are going to arise, having to deal with a teacher that maybe your kid doesn't get along with. That is a very valuable life skill that we cannot lose sight of. So to specifically answer your question, I would like to see a reduction in the amount of time, especially our youngest children, are using technology, specifically Chromebooks, and specifically daily practice on a Chromebook. And I know that there are practical applications to that, and I know that there is a reason for that. But ultimately, what I want to see for my kids and what I've heard from people across Shelby County as well is they want their kid actively engaged with an adult.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. All right, Mr. Dixon, same question for you. Technology is a growing topic within schools. Do you plan to limit or increase technology use? If so, how? Or do you plan to keep a similar approach to what we currently have? If so, why?
So I think the question is not if, the question is where you do with it. As Mr. Kevin suggested, technology offers a lot of resources. You can use the internet, use a Chromebook, and you can go see the Great Wall of China. You can go see places that otherwise kids couldn't go and see and couldn't learn about. It can be a spark, but the magic is still what happens in the classroom, and that's got to happen with kids and a teacher doing something with it. One of the things that as we've been doing our voice meetings around the district over the last couple of weeks that we've heard from parent groups is there is a concern with an over-reliance on Chromebooks, that kids are coming into class, sitting down and logging into their Chromebooks, and that's the instructional format. When we were all home during COVID, that was the model, and it was a hard habit to break when we came back. I remember one particular principal's meeting where Dr. Brooks made the point that we did not bring kids back to school to do virtual school sitting in classrooms. But as we've heard from those parents, the question rose that that's not what I thought was happening in schools. That's not what I think. If you ask most of our teachers when I get to visit schools, that's not what I see. So we're right now in the process of trying to figure out what an audit looks like so we can figure out what the reality is. So it's not scuttlebutt that lives on social media. If it turns out everything on there is not necessarily true, we can see where we are. But let's not lose sight of the fact that technology, those assessments that are required by law, the screener, give us useful data that allow us to move kids along. There's always the gaps in what our kids know when they walk into our classroom. Those gaps have gotten bigger over the last 5 or 6 years since we've endured that little experience we all went through in 2020. Those things give us valuable information that then allow a teacher to pull small groups and work on kids with specific needs. That's a great resource and that's a great tool. It's what you do with it that I think makes such a big difference. And if we find out that a tool is not useful, we won't continue to use it. From a leadership standpoint, as a superintendent, there's teachers sitting in this room right now who I know lead every day for their kids. I don't think we need to walk in with a sledgehammer and rip tools out of their hands that are useful. I think it's just a matter of reprioritizing and emphasizing the value, the magic. The thing that public school has is a mix of people from diverse backgrounds in a classroom talking about things that they see differently, and that is a microcosm for a bigger world that prepares kids to go be good citizens in our country, to go be good neighbors in their communities, to make their world, lowercase w, and world, capital W, better. That happens with the magic of teachers and students, but that data helps us do it better.
Just making you get your steps in.
You know, that's not been a problem lately.
Our seventh question tonight, second to last question for the evening, is in situations where the district makes a controversial decision, how would you communicate with families and staff to maintain trust?
Controversial decisions. Oh, I think there's not enough value that can be given for leaders to appreciate the trust and the weight and the duty they own when they get up every morning. And they pray their kids have safe days. And they pray their employees feel valued and cared about. And you make really hard decisions. If you're serving 20,000 kids, when you're serving nearly 3,000 employees, who knows how many families? There's lots of times there's not an easy decision. And most of the time, the easy decision is not the right one. So you get smart people in the room, and you listen to different voices, and you try to figure out what the best thing to do is. And you make those decisions in increments. You make those decisions intentionally. And then when you announce those decisions, you steel yourself for the criticism that will invariably come. And you remind yourself that people are reacting based on the things they know. But you've got to get those people in the room that have all the information and try to make the best decision you can. And you know what? Sometimes you probably make the wrong decision. And when you do, you own that. And when you make the right decision, you give that credit to the people that are part of your team that help you be successful. That's the only way, is with humility and a recognition that I believe God puts people in positions for a purpose. And so you own that weight, and you try to make decisions that respect the law. You try to make decisions that respect your community values, but you also try to make decisions that honor a greater purpose and allow you to do the best for kids you can. And then you do that over and over again, and all of a sudden you've been in it 28 years, and you look like this, and everywhere you go, you run into a kid. Some of them, when they walked across the stage at graduation, you just thought, thank you, Lord, they belong to somebody else now. And if I could go back in time, I would love to know what my teacher said when I walked across the stage. Those kids figure it out. And my experience is, even in the HR world where I've had to make some really hard decisions, I run into people all the time who 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, recognize that decision, it wasn't what they wanted at the moment, but it was the right decision. And you move forward with humility, and you trust that you're serving the people or you're serving your community.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Now, same question for you, Mr. Gunn. In situations where the district makes a controversial decision, how would you communicate with families and staff to maintain trust?
As I've said before, and I truly, truly believe the trust that a public school has when a child is dropped off at those schools every single day. It takes a lot of trust to trust that that child is going to be cared for, that it's going to be loved, or he or she is going to be loved. They're going to be treated as a human being. They're going to be treated as an individual. They're going to be put back into place when they get out of place. That is a sacred trust that we have as public school educators. And it is extremely important and extremely valuable to all of us as public educators within our heart. When we have to make difficult decisions, we have to understand every side of the situation. We have to understand all the perspectives that go into this decision that we have to make. We have to make sure that we are seeking counsel from the communities that might be affected. We're thinking about how this might ripple effect and the individuals it might affect 3 steps down the road when we make this very difficult decision. We have to surround ourselves with very intelligent people, people very much more intelligent than myself or Mr. Dixon, that inform us and lead and help us form our decisions that we have to make, because we know it's going to impact people. We know whatever decision we make could possibly hurt people. It could be hurtful to people. Unfortunately, a decision we make could ultimately be hurtful to the children that we serve, but it's a decision that we have to make. And ultimately, as superintendent, after you sought counsel, you've come to a conclusion and you make that decision, you have to own it. Because at the end of the day, that decision was yours and yours alone. No matter how successful it is or how unsuccessful it is, that decision, at the ultimate decision maker, the person who decided which direction we're going to go, will ultimately be the superintendent of the school system.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. All right, for our last question, we have talked a lot about the system as a whole. We've talked a lot about the students. We have not talked much tonight about the teachers. As a husband to a wife who teaches within the school system, this one is personal to me. I can think of an example just today, and I will not mention exactly what happened, but it's getting tougher and tougher from a teaching standpoint. Just in general, I say that for the entire country. And so when you look at the teachers and, the priority there, so the question is, what would be the top priority for teachers and teacher retention, and how do you plan to make that a reality?
Of course. The most important thing that we can do for our teachers, and this is the teachers, our entire school system, is we have to be crystal clear about what we expect from our teachers. We have to be crystal clear about what we expect from an academic performance standpoint, from a human engagement standpoint, from a classroom discipline standpoint. And then we have to let our teachers go. They are professionals. They have worked very, very hard to get to the point where they are at. I am amazed every single day by some of the amazing teachers that I work with and the things that they do for students and the things that I have seen teachers throughout my career do for students. Some of them are with us today. They pour their blood, sweat, and tears into their work. They pour their blood, sweat, and tears into our students to make sure that they are successful, that they're doing right, that they're acting right, that they're doing the things that they need to do to be successful. We have to treat our teachers unequivocally as professionals. We have to give them very clear expectations about what we want from them, but then we have to turn them loose and let them go and let them be professionals. Give them the creativity, or give them the license to be as creative as they possibly want. That's how I've seen outcomes in the schools that I've been able to serve. That's ultimately the conversation we had at Lena Middle School several years ago. We received unfavorable grades, and it didn't look like we were going to do well in our state report card. We put our expectations on the board, and we turned our teachers loose. And I've never been so proud to get an A on the state report card after that. We did a similar thing this year at Oak Mountain High School, where we didn't see test scores to where we felt like we were capable of achieving. We had great conversations about that. We gave our teachers clear parameters about what we expected and what we wanted them to do. And we've just now found out we've had our highest ACT scores in the last 5 years. And that was nothing special Mr. Gunn was doing. It was simply giving our teachers the opportunity and turning them loose and allowing them to be creative with very clear expectations about what we expect from them and what we want from them. And we have to value our teachers' time. Our teachers' time is absolutely consumed, from emails to parents to following up the documentation, doing the paperwork that they're responsible for doing, and trying to sneak in a bathroom break when they can. I know when I moved from a teacher to assistant principal many years ago, I said I never want to forget the fact that I can now go to the bathroom anytime I want to. And these people I serve are stuck in the classroom whether they need to or not. We have to value our teachers' time and make sure when they're paid on contract to do their job, that we're allowing them to prepare and do their work.
All right, Mr. Dixon, same question for you, and our final question of the night.
I don't need you to read this one. This is everything.
Go for it.
As the HR director for the school system currently, it's a huge part of what I do. I think there's a lot of things that go into that, but when Dr. Brooks made his announcement that he wasn't going to run again, after my wife and I prayed and made lists and thought and prayed some more and tried to figure out some other solution and tried to talk Lewis into running again, I sat down and I made a list, and the very first thing I put on that list was honor and empower educators. And let's pause just long enough to note to say when I'm talking about that, I mean teachers, I mean bus drivers, I mean para-educators, I mean lunchroom ladies. Because y'all know, every school, there's one lunchroom lady, they can give more food than anybody else, and that's the longest line in the school. I tested that theory, it's usually true. So we've got to honor and empower those folks, and I think some of that means is we tell the story. Andrew mentioned the great things his teachers do. I see great things teachers do every time I visit a school. Some of our newer board members, when they first came on, they said, wow, we had no idea. People don't know. We've got to tell that story. We've got to tell two stories. We've got to tell the amazing stuff teachers do, and we've got to be honest that teaching's hard work. And I don't know, somewhere maybe we started telling people along the way that, hey, you get summers off and you're off at 3:15. I don't think that was ever true, and it's definitely not true now. But it's hard because it matters. And we've got to honor that work. The other part of it, I think we've got to help teachers put good boundaries in place. We've got to say, don't stay at school every night till 8 o'clock. You can't do that. That paper will be sitting there tomorrow. I think teachers ought to put a tag on the bottom of every one of their email signatures that says, thank you for your patience. I am busy serving your students. Please allow 24 hours to respond. And then we've got to respond. We've got to put some boundaries in place and those kinds of things. We've got to have a conversation with our families that when we approach issues with curiosity and respect and how we work together, we can accomplish great stuff for kids. But when we approach things, either side, and I see both sides of it, confrontationally and with an accusatory mind, that's not going to go anywhere good, and that makes that process harder and it negatively impacts the child. And I think that's part of a culture. I'll say the other thing that I think is huge for Shelby County Schools is the resources with the instructional coaches and the supports that are available. If you need help here, you get help. And then lastly, one of the things that I've dreamed about since I made that very first list, if I'm elected, one of the things I really want to do is I want to recognize every graduate every year as they approach graduation that say they're going to major in education. And I want them to get a letter from the superintendent that says, please consider this your official letter of interest to become a teacher in Shelby County Schools. You go get your degree, you go get your certificate, and you come back home and serve the community that raised you. That's the way that I think you promote a culture that protects and keeps great teachers.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. That brings to an end the question and answer format tonight. David, before we move on, do we need to make sure the building's not on fire with... So now we'll go on to... Yeah, you said you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Gunn.
That takes us to the closing statement portion where each candidate will have 5 minutes to share their closing thoughts on why they think you should elect them to be our next superintendent of Shelby County Schools. And the order of that was determined by a drawing held before the forum tonight. And Mr. Gunn will be first to step up, and he will give us his 5-minute closing statement.
Well, once again, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and spending your evening with us. I know there's many better things that y'all probably could have been doing, but I appreciate you spending the time with us. To anyone that will be watching later on or might see this after the fact, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this and listen to both of our ideas and our vision about the future of Shelby County Schools. I will say this. This has been an unbelievable process the last several months. It has been an amazing thing to go out across this school district and meet so many amazing people who do so many amazing things and trust us every single day with their children. And that trust is a very, very powerful thing. It is something that I hold very dear and I think about every single day when I see the students walking into my building and the students that we serve and the parents dropping them off and the love and the care that goes into that. It is very important to me that the future of our school system is built on the foundation of the power of the human being in the classroom, the power of human connection in the classroom, the power of face-to-face learning in the classroom, and the way we maintain that trust with our parents is being absolutely transparent about who we are as a school system and what we value, what our expectations are for your role as a parent and your child's role as a student. Absolutely clear with our employees about what your role is in serving our students. Allowing those professionals to do their job to the best of their abilities because they are truly professionals who work so hard every single day. And ultimately, understanding that the world is going to change around us. It is changing now. It'll be different this time next year than it is now. It'll be different 3 years from now. It'll be different 5 years from now. But having a rock solid understanding of what we value from a sense of trust, a sense of human connection in the classroom, a sense of treating our people as professionals, and not losing sight of those values regardless of what comes our way or what happens. I am 100% invested in the success of the school system. I have 3 children that have not even begun school yet, and they will come through Shelby County Schools regardless of what happens. I love this place. I love this community. I love the way it has treated me over the last 14 years and the opportunities it's provided me to lead and guide our students in 3 different schools over the last 12 years. And I truly believe the future of our school system will be built on us focusing on that human connection in the classroom and the power of an amazing teacher providing face-to-face learning every single day to our students. And to us giving our employees crystal clear expectations about how we want things to look, how we want our school system to operate, and what our culture needs to look like. And outside of that, allowing them to do their job while we value their time and their energy. I appreciate once again all of you coming out today. I look forward to meeting with you. I'm sure we'll all be around later on this evening, but I might be knocking on your door at some point in the future as well. So thank you all again for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. And now Mr. Dixon will have 5 minutes to share his closing statement.
Shelby County's home. Earlier in the room, there's a ton of folks in here I know. It's where Amy and I chose to raise our family. It's where we'll take our last breath. Unless the Lord has something I don't anticipate. Shelby County's home for me and my family, and it's home for you and your family. And I bet when you decided to plant roots here, you know, I was a military kid. My dad was a Marine for 30 years. We moved all the time. And I moved and bought a house in a town where nobody moves. And we love that our children got to be raised in that environment. It's home. And I bet when you chose to plant roots at Oak Mountain, or Vincent, or Calera, or Montevallo, or Helena, wherever in our county, part of why you chose it is because it has great schools. You choosing the next superintendent is you having a voice in keeping our schools great and helping our schools grow to be even greater. And I take that weight really seriously. I've got a daughter who's a freshman in college right now who's very much enjoying spending all of her parents' money. She's excelling grade-wise, but she's excelling life-wise too because of what people here pour into her. You get to do that. And then whichever one of us you select has the duty to honor your faith and your trust in us. And I believe that Andrew will take that seriously. I know that I will take it seriously. 28 years in, I still have a ton of energy and passion for this work. It matters. It changes lives. I am so thankful for everybody that's here, that's in attendance. There's a million other things you can do tonight, but this one's important. I'm thankful for the people that will watch this later. There's a million other things you could be doing. This is important. And I'm thankful for all the folks I've gotten to meet on this journey. As Andrew said, the last few months, it's been tiring. Dr. Brooks, when we sat down, he said, "You're going to be more tired than you've ever been in your entire life." And I said, I have since told him, "Yes, sir." My current analogy is it's the story of Elijah and the widow. Every day there's enough meal and enough oil for bread for that day. And you go to work and you do the work and you believe there's purpose in it. This process has been one of the greatest blessings of my professional journey. And maybe one of the greatest blessings of my journey. I have met so many amazing people across this district. People, I don't know what people think. I don't know what I thought when I started it. But it's been such an enriching experience. And I'm so thankful regardless of what happens with the outcome. I'm thankful to have taken this journey. I'm a better leader because of having gone through this. I'm thankful for your presence. Andrew, I'm thankful that you have a desire to serve. Either one of us will be better because of the other one. We've made each other work harder. We talk all the time about competition being a good thing. This is a great example of it. I've worked hard, and I know you've worked hard. And it's made both of us, in whatever roles we're in, we'll be better because of it. I take the work seriously. I've had experience 10 years as a classroom teacher, 10 years running 2 different buildings in our school system. I've had the opportunity to serve kids with great means, and I've had the opportunity to serve kids who come from really challenging situations. And both of those things are realities of Shelby County Schools. If you put your faith in me, I will go to work every single day. I will lean on the creativity and the judgment and the wisdom of the amazing people that work in the system and do my best to represent you in a way that honors the things you value and honors the purpose we're all called to in this life. I would very much appreciate the honor of serving as the next superintendent and humbly ask for your vote on May 19th. I will be the last person to leave here tonight, so if you have individual questions to ask me, I'll be happy to talk with you individually when we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Thank you to both of you for taking part in this tonight. It's talked about this on the podcast with each of you, but it shows your willingness to serve. And that's an important thing when there's not enough of that, just in general. So we're appreciative that you both took the risk, took the time, the work, the effort to pour into this, And it shows how important the school system is, the staff is, and the students are. So we really, really appreciate that. Let's give both Andrew Gunn and Will. I will say, I think the most successful part of the night is that we all color coordinated here. We knew the Shelby County Schools. Yeah, I'm heading that direction. So. But no, seriously, I appreciate y'all for being here tonight. Jeff State for hosting us. They always do such a fantastic job with any event that's in this specific room, but on this entire campus, and it just goes to show the educational success that we have in Shelby County. Shelby County is the best county in Alabama for education, and we see that with Shelby County Schools. We see that with Jeff State, University of Montevallo, and obviously other school systems as well. So it wouldn't be possible with people like yourselves being in the room tonight. So I appreciate all of you taking the time out. It is a busy time of year. There's a lot going on, but appreciate y'all being here tonight. I want to thank once again Raylan, Micah, the Young Republicans of Shelby County for partnering with us, and obviously the Shelby County Chamber as well, and Kirk. Appreciate your help as always. I know we've had a fun run of forums dating back to last fall. So, and to be honest with you, this is one that with the mayoral forums and the city council forums is one thing, but I mean, I've been able to work closely and form relationships with both of these guys over the years, and just very excited, regardless of what happens, to get behind them and see where the school system goes. So we've got a good dilemma. We've got a good dilemma that we face here on May 19th, but that's an important date. Don't forget about it. Tuesday, May 19th. That's going to determine the next superintendent of Shelby County Schools. So y'all get out and vote. Make sure that you pass the word along, because it is important, and you will not typically see strong voter turnout. So we got to get the word of mouth out there. There is a podcast that we've done as well, Speaking Shelby, more in-depth conversations, a little bit more conversational with them. So make sure to go tune into that if you do have more questions. Obviously, they'll be around tonight as well. But go listen to those conversations and you'll hear a little bit more in-depth answers, because 3 minutes is a tough amount of time to answer some of those questions. So if you get the opportunity to do that. But just appreciate you all for being here tonight. Tuesday, May 19th, go out and vote. Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.